Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and it is March of 2020. A year ago, I got a new job and completely revitalized my entire life. In that year, I've actually increased my overall standing at that job and have excelled tremendously. To say that March of 2020 is just a night and day difference between March of 2019 is an understatement. Unfortunately, there's a lot of night when it comes to March of 2020. Thanks, China. Thanks. Not that I'm surprised, seeing as how they exported H1N1, and evidently that killed something like 10,000 people. But of course, no one cared at the time because no one cared. Oh, dearie, dearie me. The current events that are transpiring are trying, to say the least. Now, for me, I've always been well aware of just how fragile advanced civilization actually is. I'm well aware that, there isn't a magical food man that just zaps food onto store shelves. I also know that stores have a very limited stock of food at any one time. So, yeah, while I'm aware of that, actually living the reality of that is substantially different. Now, thankfully, this export from China, while bad, is not as bad as it could be. There are a lot more virulent diseases out there, and thankfully, this is what we got, and thankfully, the death toll is not nearly as bad as, say, the Spanish flu or the bubonic plague or anything like that. But it's still pretty bad nonetheless. I'm getting the feeling that when it comes to this particular export from China, what's going to end up happening is, a year from now, people are going to be like, oh, there was no reason to do all of that. That was stupid. Kind of like what they did with Y2K. What's kind of funny, for those who weren't even alive in the year 2000, that makes me feel really old. Y2K was the millennium bug. The idea that the computers would switch to 1900 because that's how the computer clocks were set up at the time. When 2000 rolled around, nothing happened. However, for like a year, people had been working really, really hard to ensure that nothing did happen. And then nothing happened, and it was like, oh, nothing happened, how stupid, blah, 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 blah. So I think that all the people working really, really hard right now to make sure that this export doesn't get any worse, people are going to forget about that. They're going to be like, oh, they got all worked up for nothing. No, they got worked up for a reason. And I think all the work that's being done should keep this from getting too much worse. So with that in mind, I think we're starting to see people wake up even more than they'd already been doing. This is a big dose of reality to people who have been living in a bubble all their lives. We're very much used to all of our modern conveniences, being able to go to the local supermarket and buying sushi and stuff like that. That's a lot harder these days, as you would expect. It's good to see that people are starting to try to provide for their own defense. Firearms ownership is way up. I am a big advocate of owning firearms and getting trained with said firearms because at the end of the day, only you can prevent yourself from dying. There is the police, but they have to know there's a crime and they have to get there, and yeah, if they're just 1 minute too late, they're 1 minute too late. So I'm glad to see people are wising up and realizing that they need to provide for their own defense. Really, this is something that should have been obvious before, but at least people are learning now. And this will provide a good practice if something worse happens in the future. For me, this is still just very unreal, though. I mean, I'm well aware of all of this stuff. I know how all of this works. It's just, to actually live it, it's just, it's like a movie almost. So when it comes to stocking up on food, you don't necessarily need like those pre-packaged freeze-dried things. Really, like rice and beans will keep you alive if you really need it, but I honestly don't see it getting that bad. I do see some more quarantines here and there, but I don't think we're going to see a breakdown in trade or anything like that. But it still is a good idea to stock up just in case. You don't need to go nuts and like cash out your life savings or something like that, but just get enough that you can live on for a little while. When it comes to guns and ammo, yeah, that's going to be pretty hard because people have been panic buying a lot. It's kind of crazy, actually. The amount of panic buying that's been going on took me completely by surprise. It was like a week ago. I just bought some 38s, and I thought, like, well, I've got plenty of those now. Then it's like, oh, you can't get anything anymore. It's like, what? When did this happen? That's one of the things. It's like the export virus has been going on for a little while now, but I've just kind of ignored it. It's like, oh, it's just another one of those sidebar issues, and then it's like all of a sudden, wham, there it is. It's kind of a wake up call to me too. So if you're a first time gun owner, I always recommend get some training. That's going to be very difficult because you probably don't want to go to the range where there's a lot of people and that kind of yeah. What you're going to want to do is watch a variety of videos. You're going to want to read some training manuals. I recommend seeking out any training manuals written by Jeff Cooper. Some of the stuff is a little old-fashioned, but it will definitely put you in the right mindset for individual defense. There's plenty of survival training manuals. There's plenty of survival training videos. There's plenty of gun videos. Just get trained. Understand what you have. You do not have a magical fire stick. It's not a talisman. It is a tool. That is something that we, the gun-owning public, have been trying to tell you for years. It's not magical. All it is a tube that launches a piece of lead. When it comes to the food thing, it's like food, it's kind of crazy. It really is when it comes to food. These days, we don't even think about it. It's just, oh, I would like pork chops. You drive down to store, buy it. It's not that expensive, and you bring it home. Something like that. It's like now that there's empty store shelves, people are starting to realize that food's got to come from somewhere. And you look at, it wasn't that long ago where there was a considerable amount of food scarcity, and there still is in some places today. That is something that people have to realize. Even I have to realize it to some extent. But you just got to keep your wits about you. Don't get worked up into a frenzy. The media and and social media as well is really kind of fanning the flames of hysteria. It's not as bad as it could be, but there's a lot of misinformation going around and stuff like that. Now, one thing that is really annoying is there's some government overreach going on as well. There's localized gun bans, which it's so illegal it's not even funny that that's going on. I'm not surprised it is, but it is, and that's going to make someone's career when they take it to the Supreme Court, because municipalities can't just issue a blanket gun ban. The ATF can't just issue oh yeah, you can't do any more background checks. They can't just do that, but they are, and somebody's going to get in trouble for that. Ultimately, though, we will get through this. Humanity has survived a lot worse than the export virus. So just keep your head down, keep your wits about you, and just relax. Enjoy social isolation. I've been enjoying it for 31 years, and I turned out just fine. So, with that gravity out of the way, let's talk about something more positive, and that is Doom Eternal. There will be a review put out literally a week from today, ladies and gentlemen. It's not going to be an exhaustive review, but there are a wide variety of things I want to touch on in that game. Basically, it's better than I could have ever imagined. I'm not going to go as far to say that it's the best first-person shooter ever made, but it is definitely in the running. The story is absolutely excellent. I'm not going to say it's amazing, but it is very, 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 very top tier. I really like what they've done with the Doomslayer. I really like what they've done with the characters. The story is serious where it needs to be, and kind of funny where it also needs to be as well. I kind of like how the villains kind of remind me of some of the villains from Fist of the North Star in some respects. And yeah, Doomslayer kind of reminds me a little bit of Kenshiro from that series as well. The combat has just been dramatically improved from Doom 2016. I don't think I could go back to Doom 2016, to be perfectly honest. The kind of lackluster combat in Doom 2016, it's so much better because you're not constantly relying on glory kills to kill enemies. You can actually shoot them. The way the balance has been done, you actually want to get glory kills now because you want every little bit of health you could possibly get because the enemies do a crap ton of damage to you now, even on Hurt Me Plenty. The graphics look pretty great. I can only run it on medium right now because that's literally what the recommended specs say. It says specifically the GTX 970 needs to be run on medium, which kind of sucks, but I'm hoping a patch will fix that. But the graphics, as they are now, still look pretty damn good. Let's see. The levels are absolutely excellent as well. I'm not going to say amazing because they're not as open as I would like. They're definitely linear, but there's a lot more going on in them than there were in Doom 2016. There's fewer arenas, and the arenas aren't nearly as annoying. The arenas are much bigger, there's a lot more levels to them, and it doesn't feel like you're being locked in a square box and you have to fight X number of enemies to leave. It actually feels much more natural than it ever did in Doom 2016. There's a lot more verticality. There's a lot of platforming as well. I get the feeling that Deathstalkers, there we go. The non-Succubus one. The Deathstalkers. I think there was a Deathstalkers dev or somebody like that worked on this game because a lot of the platforming in this game feels like something from Deathstalkers. It really does. Doom Guy's climbing around like he's fucking Spider-Man. And it's great. It's an absolutely amazing game. I'm completely blown away. It's like the best game I've played since... I'm trying to think. This is probably the best AAA release I have played probably since Wolfenstein New Order. And this blows Wolfenstein New Order completely out of the water. It is that good. There's an absolutely amazing amount of collectibles, which means you actually have reason to go back to previous levels. It's basically Lego level of collectibles. It's amazing. Doomslayer has his own, Doom Fortress. It's the Doom Cave, and there's actual, comedic bits in there. I've actually, before I do the full review of Doom Eternal, which I'll get to in a moment, I need to actually play, what's that stupid game called? Commander Keen, because I know nothing about Commander Keen. It was slightly before my time. So I can actually get some of the references to that. But there's a lot of references to all the various Dooms. It's great. So the initial review will just be touching on, what is actually in the game. Because there's a lot of reviews out there that are almost outright misinformation. I saw one review almost inadvertently. I just read it. Slightly before I played the game. I was at lunch, and I was like, okay, let me see one review of it. And they're like, oh yeah, the combat isn't good, there's no ammo anywhere. There's ammo all over the place. You have to use the chainsaw all the time. You don't have to use the chainsaw all the time. Let's see, what was the other thing? Oh yeah, you have to fight certain enemies in a certain way, otherwise you can't kill them. Specifically the Cacodemon and the Arachnotron. In that review they were saying, if you just shoot the Arachnotron, it takes a whole magazine to kill it. That's not true. At all. You can just shoot them until they die. Yeah, if you use a grenade, you can blow off some of their weapons, but you don't have to do that. And it certainly doesn't take an entire magazine to kill an Arachnotron. Let's see, what's the other thing? Oh yeah, they were saying that there's too much platforming. The platforming is so well done. I'm surprised they pulled it off as well as they did. The platforming is legitimately fun. You can control Doomslayer quite well. The camera works perfectly well with it, and it's just I don't think I've ever seen a first-person shooter that has platforming this good. So, for me, my initial review right now is Doom Eternal is, everything we wanted from a Doom sequel, and I'm going to go play it after I finish this vlog. So the initial review will probably just be about 10 minutes long, just audio over gameplay footage. Honestly, I kind of don't even want to record any more gameplay footage because I just want to play the game without, having to do any work, but I'll record a little bit more. There will be a full review of Doom Eternal where I just go through the entire game, level by level, talk about the different bosses, talk about the different, references and things of that nature, and I'll be doing that in July, specifically the end of July, because it's going to take a while. Now, since the Kung Flu is upon us, next month's full review is going to be Turok 3. I was going to just not do it because I wasn't really motivated. I'm still not that motivated right now, but since everybody's kind of trapped inside, I want to give everyone a video that they can watch that's more than 7 minutes long. I already got half of it done before I kind of lost motivation anyway. And the Turok 3 review, as I said way back in January, is going to basically be, a Turok retrospective, so to speak, where I'm going to be talking about the entire Turok 3 campaign, level by level, boss by boss, stuff like that, weapon by weapon. I'm also going to be talking about the history of Turok, where did he come from? I'm going to talk about the original Gold Key comics, the Valiant comics as well. And One thing is, Turok has always been a badass. The Gold Key comics from the 50s, you know, he and his little buddy, Pindar, I think his name is, they poison their arrows and shoot a T-Rex in the face and kill it. It's awesome. And that's in a 1950s comic. The 1950s comic, as I said back in January, is basically Batman and Robin, but Native Americans. And set in a dinosaur world. It's awesome. I cannot wait to talk about that. So after that is done next month, in May, I'm just going to be kind of taking a break for a little bit. And not taking, when I say taking a break, I don't really mean I'm not going to be putting out videos. It's just I'm not going to be working every day trying to get a full review out. But May and June, I'm just going to be putting out, my basic little, audio and video videos. That way I can have enough spare time on top of that to work on Doom Eternal, the full video. I'm thinking when it comes to Doom Eternal, the full video, I'm just going to reuse the footage from my live streams, because I'm going to live stream the entire game. You'll still see a picture of me and the chat, but I don't think anyone's going to care, and it'll take way less time than me having to record the whole game again. I do intend to play the game at least one more time before the full review. Just because, for one, it's a really good game, but also so I can really get a lot of the details that I might miss in the first playthrough. I'd like to play it one more time on top of that, but I don't think there's going to be time for that. Planning for future reviews is always kind of iffy. Plans never survive contact with exports from the Middle Kingdom. So with that in mind, I'm not sure what the other reviews this year will be. Right now, I'm not going to make any promises other than just Turok 3 and Doom Eternal. Now, what I do want to say is I am going to definitely try to do a full review of Alien Isolation for Halloween. Now, I don't know what's going to happen between now and October, but that is definitely something I want to try and actually do. Book reviews are going to continue. There's not going to be one next week, simply because I'm not going to have enough time. Because I'll be really rushing to get Doom Eternal out so everyone can know that the game is actually really good. But the next 2 book reviews are going to be on the final 2 original Doom novels. I'm not going to do the Doom 3 novels, mainly because I want to wait and do those later. After those Doom novels are finished, I'm going to get back to my original plan of... My original plan was this. I was going to review one Aliens novel, one modern Aliens novel, and one final Star Wars novel. By which I mean the final Star Wars novels from 2012 to 2014. And so I've got plans to do those. Now, there's a lot of those Aliens novels, because there's 3 in the initial trilogy, then there's one that's Cold Harvest, Cold Forge, or whatever it's called, and then there's one final one that I'm actually in the process of reading right now, called Aliens Phalanx. I'm going to give a review of that right now. I haven't actually finished the book. I'm about halfway done. But the half I have read, it's pretty damn good. It's one of those things where it's not... The cover isn't bait and switch. It's just an outright lie. It implies that it takes place on medieval Earth. It does not. And that's all I'm going to say about it. Writing is good. Characters are good. It is a legitimately good Aliens novel. And so far, I do recommend it. Let's see. I do want to review some mods in April. No, not April. In May. Most notably the Slayer's Testaments mod, which I hope is actually finished by then. Because that mod is shaping up to look pretty nice. Basically, it's a Quake 1 mod with Doom 2016 weapons and enemies, but with more Quake style of combat. It's a damn good mod that sadly is not finished yet. I hope it actually does get finished despite the export. So, let's see. Gun content is not going to be as common as I would like, simply because, well, it's kind of hard to go to the range when you're worried about, catching the lurgy. Now, I do have some footage I recorded already of me doing my first shots of the Ruger PC Carbine. I was going to have that go out after the AK, but unfortunately, the last time I took the AK to the range, I wasn't able to actually hit anything with it because the red dot sight was not aligned appropriately again. I don't know what it is between with me and that Yeti primary arms red dot. I cannot get that Yeti thing sighted in to save my life. It's 3 range strips. I don't know what it is. The sight isn't broken. Once I did a really weird holdover, I was able to get good hits, but it was shooting high and to the left. I'm just really bad at sighting these things in. Ironically, I was able to sight in easily the red dot on the PC Carbine, but then again, I was inside, and I could move the target back and forth. My biggest problem when it comes to sighting in a rifle, specifically at any distance, is I can't see where I'm hitting most of the time, and I almost have to guess. Yes, the trials and tribulations of having bad eyesight. And shooting an AK in an indoor range, well, I can't even get the ammo for it anymore, but I did consider spending a ridiculous amount of money getting brass case ammo. For those who know nothing about firearms, brass case ammo is going to be more expensive than steel case ammo. And the AK ammo is primarily steel case. There is some brass case, but it's going to be very expensive. I guess to put it in perspective, to get the cheapest brass case ammo for the AK, back when you could get it, it would be about $50 per 100. Contrast that with $20 per 100 steel case. That's why I didn't do it. I probably should have, but whatever. The PC Carbine review, or not the review, but the first shots, will probably go out the week after next. Maybe. I'll just have to see. Oh, so that is all for this month, ladies and gentlemen. I sincerely hope that when I do the vlog in April, things are slightly better for everyone. Just remember, keep your wits about you, don't panic, and I am GeneralLotz, wishing you good, rice, and good beans, whatever makes you happy. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, and if you can, please consider supporting me on Patreon so that I can continue bringing you this awesome content.